Ladies and gentlemen, you know what it is. We're back, Church and State, the one and only. Your friend Bryson G. Baylor here. Listen, we got an exciting episode today. It's going to be fire. When I tell you fire, I mean fire, because we're going to talk about what's been going on. We are 2 weeks into the Trump administration, and a lot is happening. My God, a lot is happening. And we got a lot to talk about, and we want to help keep you informed, keep you aware, and et cetera, et cetera. So welcome to Church and State, where we give you the culture, politics, etc., from a kingdom perspective. At least my perspective is kingdom. I cannot speak to the people who are on the show with me, guests, friends, etc., that we may have today. And today I do have a special guest, my friend, longtime friend, and political savant, the guy, the go-to guy, one and only DeAndre Forney is with us today. So we'll get to him in a second. But before we do that, I need to remind you to like, comment, and share. Help us get the algorithm moving on these platforms, because your support like that goes a long way. I think a lot of people need to hear what we're talking about, and especially Christians, because we want to help you kind of not become deceived. Because in the end times, the Bible tells us that if even the very elect could be, they would be deceived. And we don't want you to be deceived. So that's really why I'm doing this, because I want you to stay on the up and up, not to be deceived, not to be manipulated, because it's a lot going on, you know. And you need a place where you're not going to get spun to the left nor to the right, but to Christ. Come on now. Look into him, who's the author and finisher of our faith and our politics. Come on now. He's the author and finisher of our politics, our King, our Savior, our Messiah. All right. So let me introduce my friend. Let's get him on here today. Let's get him on. DeAndre Forney, everybody. Give it up for the man of God. There we go. There we go. Mr. Forney, what's up, my friend?
Yes, sir. How are you doing?
Oh, man, I'm great,
Good
bro.
to see you tonight.
I'm great. I'm great.
Good
I'm
to
glad
be
you're
here.
here, man. I think we got a
Love
lot
the
to talk about. What'd you say?
love that propaganda. I love that propaganda intro you did.
Propaganda intro. What are you talking about?
Yeah, talking about your perspective is kingdom. You don't know about everybody else.
I
You know what
can't.
I thought? What
I can't speak
kingdom
for
is
everybody
that?
else.
The animal kingdom at Disney World? What kingdom? What
The
kingdom
kingdom
you
of our
talking
Lord
about?
and his Christ. That's what we're talking
Okay.
about.
Not one to the right or to the left. Okay.
We're
All
looking to
right.
Jesus, Doc. We are looking to Jesus around here.
Yeah.
Who is
Okay.
the
Keep
author,
looking.
the
Yep.
perfecter?
Okay.
My God. So let me ask you this
What you
question.
want to
So
talk about?
this is so not even on our list. I don't even have a text for this, but I got to speak to this, man. Because this happened. I didn't even think about it. I don't know why we didn't think about this, but man, did you hear about the planes and stuff? The uproar, the the tragedy. One that happened last. I want to say the 31st on over the Potomac River, where
Hmm.
the Black Hawk helicopter ran into the to the airliner, the I think it was a CR7, CJ7, something like that, but an American airline flight, killing, I believe, 40 people, um, on board. Man, what do what do you think about all that stuff, man? I know this is not on the immediate topic, but
Um,
it was blamed on DEI too, kind of. But what are your
who
thoughts?
did that? Who said that?
The media,
The media.
the media.
See, here you go.
Yeah.
You don't want to
No, I mean,
tell.
what do you
You
think
don't
about
want
it?
to
Talk about
tell.
it. You talk about it, man. What are your thoughts, bro?
Um, I think that obviously it is a tragedy. Tragedy. Anytime anyone loses their life in a situation that could have been prevented, you know, definitely thoughts and prayers for all those affected by it. Um, you know, I'm not an expert. I haven't studied, everything that took place. I haven't looked at, all of the news or briefings on this particular subject. But I mean, just on the surface, from what I've seen, obviously it seems that this could have been prevented. But I will say this, that it is tricky in DC because DC, unlike any other area, maybe in the world, um, has a very unique, limited flight course plan for planes. There are a lot of there are areas in DC, like the White House, the vice presidential residence, and things of that nature, where planes just can't fly. And DC is only 10 miles by 10
Right,
miles,
right,
10
right.
square miles. So you're talking about for a plane, that's a very small area. You're talking about
True.
making a very small area even smaller. And so, in some ways, it's surprising that you don't have more incidents like this. What I did see on it is that it's probably likely that the airline jet wasn't seen because you have all of the backlights of the street lights and buildings and things of that nature, and it just kind of blends into that when you're flying at a low altitude like the helicopter. So obviously there were some failures somewhere. I'm not sure exactly where they were. I think it was premature, and I believe that it was the president doing what he does best, distracting, who made some comments saying that this was probably due to DEI. I don't think that he's offered any evidence of that. Not that a lot of things he says he offers any evidence for. But I think that those kind of statements are just unfortunate in a situation like this, and do more harm than they help. What do you think?
Well, I'm glad you asked my opinion. No, on this, I do think that it is a unique situation. Number one, you're talking about obviously, people's lives being impacted and whatnot, and it's never, I mean, that's always difficult, right? And it's hard to, particularly in an American situation, like who's to blame? Like, I think that's the wrong thing that we should be looking at, really, like who's to blame versus just how do we make sure this doesn't happen again? Because I don't think any pilot is thinking like, hey, I want to die today, you know, like
Well,
this.
I mean, I think last year didn't we have the a pilot commit suicide on a plane in a Singapore airline or something like that? So
I
I
have
don't
no
know if
clue,
that's true. I don't have a problem with pointing blame where there's blame to be pointed.
but I think
I
it's
think
too
it's
early for that, though. I think it's too early for that.
well, the clearly the president doesn't.
Well, I think,
Mhm.
and that's the thing. Like, I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't think it was necessarily right or wrong, but I think that it's definitely hasty to try to figure out, like, you know, um, who, because when you find out who's wrong, what does that change? Doesn't really change
Well,
anything.
I think hopefully it changed some people's jobs.
Well, but then
Uh,
that goes into another problem, though, because then if you want to do that, then we got to look at the root of, is it a potential DEI issue here? Is this something that is a result of, number one, the lowered standards of the Federal Aviation Administration, or is this just because the wrong person was doing the job?
or is it because nobody's running the Federal Aviation Administration because Elon Musk
Has
pretty
nothing to
much
do
got
with
rid of
that.
it? Oh, of course it doesn't.
It doesn't have anything to do
I
with that,
get,
bro.
I get it. I
What do you
get what you're
mean
saying.
you get it? He literally has nothing to do with the FAA.
So the person who's in charge of the FAA has nothing to do with the FAA.
I didn't say that. I said Elon Musk does not have.
But Elon Musk, in his new governmental role, was, I don't want to use the word responsible, but was involved in the departure of the FAA administrator, which is currently vacant, correct?
No, not to my knowledge. Not to my. And these are the lies, people, that the spin that the media. I'm not saying DeAndre is the big media here, but the fake news. Let me stop playing. Elon Musk's role has nothing to do. Matter of fact, he's simply a consultant, and he is worth the team, the USDS, the Digital Services Team, which operates under the Doge temporary moniker.
How
That's
you
pretty, huh?
how you know?
I don't because that's what the role is. You think
Okay.
he's just over here just floating in and out of all different agencies and whatnot? Now, if the person was not, if the vacancy was not filled, it's because of our senators, because they haven't
Do
confirmed
you
the
think
person yet.
that,
I wouldn't
so
blame it
you
on.
think, so you think that his role is only limited to, not even his role, let's not say that, because maybe his role is only limited. His influence is
I
only
don't.
limited to a very narrow description that the public has been given. That's what
Now
you
we're
think?
now we're straining at gnats here because I don't know what his influence is. Could he have influenced the
My
president and be like,
point,
"Hey, do you think this could have
my
happened?" Blah
point.
blah blah. I don't know, but the question then we could ask the last 4 years. Well, who was influencing President Biden? Because we know that he wasn't making the decisions himself. We know that he wasn't acting on his own volition on probably a great majority of his directives and
How do you know?
initiatives as president.
How do you know?
Same way that you know that Elon Musk is
You're
not
making
is
assumptions. So
running
you've
things.
already you make assumptions
No,
that
no, no.
they're
If you're
not.
going to make the assumptions, I'm going to make assumptions that are probably more true than yours.
Say what you want to say. The fact that Elon Musk has a lot of influence and it's been reported that he was involved in the departure of the FAA administrator. I don't know that that's necessarily the truth or not, but I don't think that that's grasping at straws. And to answer your question, who was running the country when Joe Biden was president? Hunter Biden. Who else would you want to run it?
Are you serious? Are you just trying to bait me here?
No.
Hunter Biden
He
was running the
yeah,
country.
yep.
Hmm.
That
Well, I'd
was
rather.
probably, I don't know, I wasn't there, but that was probably his handler. And if Joe Biden had to have one, I think his son would be great. I mean, isn't that what Trump did during the first go
But
around? He
listen,
had Jared in there, he had
well,
Ivanka in there, he had a
family
couple
rules.
mistresses in there,
Couple mistresses.
so
Wow. The blasphemy. It's
hopefully,
just wow.
hopefully,
The slander. The
hopefully,
libel. Wow.
communications director,
Wow.
hopefully. Yeah,
Couple side
okay.
chicks. Well, hey, well, at least we know there wasn't cocaine found in the Trump administration. That
They
just
used it
mysteriously
all.
disappeared. Mysteriously,
They
cocaine was
used
found
it all.
mysteriously.
Oh, you don't
That's
think
a
Don
Biden thing.
Jr.'s
Come on,
ever
man.
been
They're doing
alive?
drugs. Come on. Hey, our
You know,
president is an
Don
anti-drug guy.
Jr.
Our president is an anti-drug guy. We know that he doesn't drink. We know that he doesn't advocate drugs. He doesn't smoke. All that stuff. He's a good man. He's a good man. But anyways, the moral of the story is this though. Back
That's
to
just
the
making you think
tragedy.
you can think your stuff now.
Oh, this guy, man. The reality's got to be that if the FAA the vacancy has nothing to do with Elon Musk. Elon Musk and
So
what they're doing is what for whatever reason the Democrats seem to hate it. They hate the accountability. They hate the being exposed for the fiscal malfeasance, irresponsibility that they are really that
give me
has
an
plagued our
example.
nation. Give you an example.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that later on the day show. But we need to talk about
Well,
DEI. No, it's on the
all
list.
right.
It's on the
So
list.
malfeasant.
Uh, yeah, because we're wasting so much money. So one example is that with
Who ran
some
the
of the
debt up more than any other president? Last three presidents combined.
that's
Who
possible.
was
That's
that?
true. That is true.
Who
Donald
was
J.
it?
Trump.
No, I mean,
Donald J. Trump.
okay.
Absolutely.
Fiscal malfeasance. Donald
Hey,
J.
hey,
Trump.
hey, listen, it happened. But here's the reality, though. All right. So we're looking at right now, though, right? We're talking about right now. We're not going to relitigate the past. Let's talk about right now. Let's talk about the $50 million, right? That the President Trump had found and that he stopped from going to
Drop in the
Hamas.
box.
Huh?
Drop in an ocean. That's a
Oh, I know,
drop of
but
in
we're
the
talking to
ocean.
people though who are struggling. We're talking about people who are some say being overtaxed, and we see our government just recklessly spending money. I think what the
So you want
Department of
somebody
Government
divided up
Efficiency is
between
doing is needed, and I think that them finding the monies that they're looking for, they're trying to get to $1 billion a day that they are slashing, which is an incredible feat, of government waste and expenditure. It's an incredible feat, and
I
they're on path to do it. And they found $50 million that they were sending to that Hamas was going to get. Now, remember, Hamas is primarily a terrorist organization, quote unquote, it represents the Palestinian government. No, it's a terrorist government. It's a terrorist organization, and we were giving them $50 million for condoms. This is not a $50 million for prophylactics from your
Money
money,
well
your
spent. You know
hard-earned money,
what? Parents reproduce
your
and
hard-earned
then
money is going to
parents,
overseas to pay for prophylactics for people who hate America and who want to see America
wow,
destroyed.
I think they hate Israel.
They,
And they
well,
hate
they hate
people
us.
who
Yeah, they hate Israel
support
first. Yeah, absolutely,
Israel and bombing them and
absolutely,
killing all their families.
absolutely,
Listen,
absolutely.
what's wrong with, first of all, $50 million, like I said, is a drop in the ocean. And if that's all they want, they ain't doing nothing. The fact, and then also, you talk about $1 billion a day, just because that kind of talk scares me. Because
What?
money, can I talk?
You can, but that's crazy.
Okay, well let me finish my point. That kind of talk scares me only because you have to spend money on some things. Okay? Period. There are certain things that have to be funded. And to just say blanket, we're gonna save this much money, we're gonna cut this much money every single day, like you might be cutting some very essential programs and things of that nature. And so I don't think, like for instance, I love to say, I'm just gonna cut my spending in half. But if I do that, there are probably some bills that will not get paid that are necessities for me. So I think it is dangerous to just set an arbitrary goal without really looking at it, line by line and item by item. Um,
What they are, though, I think that's the thing. They are looking at it line by line, item by item, and
Now, if they got an
the
arbitrary
people
goal
in
before
these
you even look
bureaucratic
at it,
roles are hating them, are really hindering them. What'd you say?
but I'm saying, how can they say that if they have an arbitrary goal before they even looked at it? Why
Well, I
not
think
look at it and say, this is what we think we can do,
well, that's a
instead
great
of saying this
question.
is what we're going to do, and now let's look and see what we can actually
Yeah,
do.
let's see what we can
Or
knock
does
out.
it not even matter because they're billionaires? It doesn't affect them, so just cut it anyway. Like for instance, what do you let's talk about when you talk about cuts. The Republican congressman from Georgia, I don't know if you know him, Rich McCormick. Are you
Okay,
familiar with him?
maybe.
But he recently was talking about how we should eliminate school lunch programs because kids should get a job,
Sure.
go get a paper route, go sell lemonade on the side of the road. Like, get rid of these free school lunches.
Yeah,
No
I heard
free
that.
lunch for nobody, not even
Yeah.
kids. Who some of these kids, it's the only meal they'll eat in a day. And these lazy bum 10-year-olds need to get out there and hustle. You agree with that? You think we need
Well,
to cut school lunch programs?
here's the reality of it. I don't think
We
anybody is
can
saying
save some money.
to cut things. It's not just to cut things, right? You mentioned earlier, and this is what I think this is what listeners need to really get is that our government, our nation is in a very dangerous predicament with our debt. DeAndre, you would agree with that, correct? I believe we're
Thanks to
$34
Trump.
trillion dollars in debt. 34 trillion? Are you
And
going to
his
blame it on Trump?
huge tax cuts for the rich and corporations that
Come on,
didn't
man.
expire while the middle class ones did.
Nah, nah.
What is
$34
that?
trillion dollars in debt.
Woo,
$34
woo.
trillion dollars in debt. $34 trillion in debt and growing every day, right? Which is an extreme crisis. Which is
Who
extreme
added the
crisis.
most to that debt?
Oh my gosh. I told you, we know in 2000 in his first administration,
Trump.
he added 4.4 billion and I believe in last administration
Trillion.
compared to Biden's 2 billion. So definitely he added more to the debt and I'm not denying that and that's something definitely that's crazy. But here's what we see right
He
now.
added more
Hold
than
on.
Bush
Yeah, yeah, Bush and Obama combined, absolutely. But here's the
and
reality though.
Biden.
That's still not 34 trillion. But the reality is this is that we're not first of all, you can't blame it on him. We can talk about
No,
this another we can talk about this next week.
bring
But
it
the
the
reality is
finger.
this, we are 34 trillion in debt as a nation. And and if we default on that, that will literally destroy our nation. That will literally bankrupt our nation. And it will cause
We're not
things to happen
talking.
governmentally. It will cause us. I mean, China's our biggest lender that we have. So when you talk about if we default to China or if we default on other assets, that could be very negative. So we have an issue where, in order to maintain our nation, in order to keep our position as a sovereign nation that is credible, we have to address rapidly our spending. And what President Trump is doing with his $1 billion a day goal is not just to be like, hey, we just want to do something so that we have this arbitrary goal. No, it's so that they can really, they have a goal in place so they can deal with the debt, to deal with that before it becomes, reaches its next level of emergency and crisis. And I think that's only fair for them to do. Now, what they are doing is not just randomly cutting stuff. They're looking to see where the waste is, like sending $50 million to Hamas for condoms, or sending, I believe it's in Burma, sending $45 million to Burma for diversity scholarships. Makes no sense. It has nothing to do with American life, has nothing to do with our role with the people in America, the average American citizen, the working people of America. That stuff doesn't matter. And so when they're cutting these expenditures, when they're looking at these things, it is for the extra stuff that government is known for. I believe they call it the pork.
Okay. I'm glad you brought up the pork because what I heard in your comment is you don't know how the sausage is made.
I don't know how the sausage by sending
And
50 million to Gaza.
listen, drop in the ocean. And I think that sometimes when it comes to diplomacy and foreign aid, money is allocated in certain ways or described in certain ways or appropriated a certain way. But I don't think that that's necessarily what the money is for. You know, um, di- diplomacy and foreign relations is very complicated, and keeping this world safe and peaceful is complicated. And money is often used as a tool to advance certain agendas and things of that nature. So to me, I don't think they're spending $50 million on condoms. I think that that's just what they're saying. But I don't have a problem with terrorists not reproducing. But when you talk about, and I just want to make this point, because you said they would be catastrophic
Terrorists
for
not
us to
reproducing.
default on the debt. And I don't disagree with that. But if it's so catastrophic, why is it? Because I really don't feel like we are in a serious we have a serious like we're gonna default. Like I don't think that's realistic. The only time us defaulting on our debt becomes really realistic is when Republicans play with the debt ceiling. When they
Oh,
play politics with the debt ceiling and bring us to the brink of economic collapse for, non non well, I won't call it non, I'll say for social issues. Yeah. They're willing to let the world burn to build a wall.
yeah,
You
because
know.
the people coming across the wall are raping, murdering, they're stealing, they are
Uh-huh.
impacting our way of life, they're lowering wages. When they come through illegally, they're bringing in drugs,
What?
fentanyl on heavy levels, they're trafficking children. I think when you talk about the need for a wall, talk about security, those are things that matter. But rather,
No,
what the Democrats would rather do is they'd rather send 50 million for condoms. I believe there was one senator I was reading earlier today that they wanted to do a test for cats to see if um, cats who go to the spa, who get spa treatment, if it impacts their ability to create fur balls. This is a real study that I believe some like $30 million was allocated towards. I'm like, are you kidding me? Now again, DeAndre, this is how you say the sausage is made. This is what they're doing.
no,
This
but
is the meal that they're making in Washington with your tax dollars, people. This is the
how?
sausages they're making. They're wasting money, spending it on pet projects while the average working citizen is struggling, trying to get their money, trying to figure out how they're going to pay their bills, trying to figure out how they're going to afford groceries. Meanwhile, these government people who say they have your back are sending your money to other countries and other means that are stupid, that don't impact you. And I say it should stop. And I know you feel that way too.
Well, I can speak for myself. What I would say is that I find, and I'm not saying that there's not waste. Of course, there's waste, you know. But what I think is that it's easy to pinpoint one out of a billion and say, well, look at this. This is crazy. But especially when it comes to these research studies, scientific studies, and things of that nature, history has shown that a lot of these have often led to different discoveries, you know? And so I, I don't know. I would have to read that. I'm not familiar with this particular one on fur balls that you've mentioned,
It's a real thing.
but I mean, the Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the White House. So whatever they want to do, they should have no problem doing. As a matter of fact, I'm still waiting on them to abolish Obamacare, to repeal and replace it because they have the power to do that, as well as they have the power to appropriate their wall.
I mean, it's very true. I mean, but I think the most important thing, I think, on our issue
Okay,
number
wait
one
now.
is the financial solvency of our nation. I think Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act,
They
obviously there are
can't, they
issues to
can't,
it. There are
they can't
challenges
read,
to it.
they can't walk and chew gum at the same time.
Well, I think that the number one
They
thing
vote on
is,
them. They
well,
vote
you got
on
to
tons
figure
of
out where you're
bills.
going to fight first. You got to figure out where you're going to fight first, right? You do have to have a
What's the fight?
priority
They have control. What's the fight? They have
because,
control.
well, let's not waste this because we have maybe only 2 years to get stuff done. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It doesn't mean that it's going to be quick or simple. So just because we do have the majority doesn't mean it's going to be like, well, next week we said it, we're going to initiate this bill and
Why
then the
not?
following week it's going to the Senate because
Ain't that how we got
unfortunately,
Obamacare? They pushed
well,
that thing right off through.
Well, I was going to say,
They had
unfortunately, they don't have
control.
the same caucus strength as the Democrats do, which I will give that to the Democrats. They definitely know how to fall in line and how to get stuff done. I'll give them that. But unfortunately, for a lot of the stuff, it's unnecessary things and things that expand the government's reach, things that initiate or bring a socialist, semi-communist approach to the way we do stuff. Things like the New Green Deal, which is a horrible waste of money and investment, but et cetera, et cetera. But here's the moral of the story, though. When it comes to
But
fighting waste, go ahead.
can you answer my original question though? Do you think that we should get rid of school lunches?
Oh God, I don't
Free
think
school
that
lunches.
that's the kind of waste that we should be looking for right now.
So you're saying you disagree with the Republican from Georgia, Rich McCormick? Children who meet a certain income threshold should not be denied free lunches and have to go get a job.
Yeah, I don't think we should do that. Come on, that's very extreme. I think he was definitely wrong in that. But again, I understand. I always try to think about why are people saying these things? What are they really trying to get at? What's the objective? If we take away lunch from children, why are we doing that? Is it an expenditure thing? Is it just because you don't think that children should have that? So at the end of the day,
I,
it's not gonna pass. So I don't get moved by people's weird bills that they want to present. Like somebody presented a bill to give President Trump an opportunity, or to give presidents who don't serve concurrent terms an opportunity to serve concurrently. So 2 terms, right? So that means that this could give Trump, if this bill gets passed and goes through the whole process, it could give him an opportunity to have a third term because he didn't have
wouldn't
two
that have
terms
to be
concurrently.
constitutional? See, this is what you want to talk about government waste. What about the waste of time? All these Republican bills that are going nowhere. You would have to change the Constitution on that.
I
And you
don't say
need
I
more
agree
than a
with
bill
it.
passed in the House.
I say I'm
No,
not
but how
moved by
many
it.
times do they do that? When the Democrats were in control, they put up over 50 bills to abolish Obamacare because they knew every one of them would fail. Now they in control. They ain't got time. They got other priorities.
Yeah, like
Wasted
saving
time.
the
They're always
nation,
wasting.
like
They, how about
saving
all the
our
money
nation,
spent on staff and labor working on things they know are pointless?
saving our
Absolutely
nation.
pointless.
I mean, listen, I definitely think that, according to what you're saying, that's definitely, a tactic. And I think it's a waste of time for sure. But I really
Waste of
think
money.
the biggest waste of time is, or the biggest waste is the spending that we're doing. And what President Trump is doing, again, with Doge, and it's creating a lot of issues because even a couple weeks ago, like the federal freeze, right? Everybody was up in arms The Illinois mayor, I forget his name. Our attorney general here in New York, Letitia James. They're like,
Brandon
oh,
Johnson.
how dare he pause the federal funding and Medicare payments, etc. Everybody is just like losing their minds. And the reality is, the reason why it happened was because they were trying to figure out where these payments are going, because a lot of the payments are going to organizations and initiatives that are against, that are frivolous, that are against the president's policies or the federal framework, or at least the White House policy on certain things. So they're trying to cut out the mess. But in order to do that, unfortunately that error happened. But people get all upset. But all they're trying to do is just really make a change. All they're trying to do is just to see what is responsible, meaningful expenditure of the taxpayer dollar.
I agree. I agree that we need to do that. I would tell them, how about we look at some of these corporate subsidies, these corporate welfare? How about we look at these defense contracts? That'd be a
Agreed.
good place to start.
Agreed. 100%.
How they
100%.
are obtained. Let's look at how these contracts are obtained and how they're bid and how that money is spent.
No, I
That'd be
think
a
that would be meaningful. I
yeah, I
listen.
do.
I think that would actually be very dope, and I think that. But again, you talk about that, and even auditing the Fed. I think
Wealthy
that we
donors,
we
they don't do that.
somebody lives at stake. You said.
The wealthy donors not to do that. They won't be reelected.
They won't be reelected. But I think it's like getting transparency in our government. I think is going to be a big key, and it'll stop a lot of the spending. Like even right now, today, the USAID, right, global funding for quote unquote what's the word, humanitarian causes by the government. President Trump just paused those payments. And so again, so you got all these people going crazy, going like, oh, how dare he stop sending money to Somalia? How dare you stop sending money to Ghana? How dare you stop sending money to Kenya? How dare you stop sending money to blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, people, for me as an American citizen, I'm going to tell you this. I am not interested in the affairs that are happening in other countries before I'm interested in the affairs happening in mine. I really am not. And I don't care how evil it makes me look. Like when we got issues, like you mentioned, like, right, we got kids who only have one meal a day, maybe from the lunch provided at school, which you and I both know is subpar, right? Why are we spending billions and billions of dollars of American taxpayer dollars to go and support other nations when our nation is in such a wreck? It makes no sense to me. It's very pointless and stupid, and it's needful to examine it and to cut the waste on this stuff.
I think that we do some of it, not all of it, and I do agree with to a certain extent with American first. Like you gotta take care of your home. You gotta take care the splinter out your eye before you go looking at somebody else's 2x4. But I think the glue that holds the world together oftentimes is financial. And I think if we just completely forsook some of these things, I think it would create more problems, wars, things of that nature. So it is what it is. But
It
you
might
know,
be
you
even be
gotta help.
causing war though. That's the problem. The way that we're doing it might even be the cause of war or destabilization of governments, because it's
I,
not all that
I,
simple. The sausage
I
that you're
tell
talking about is some secretive sausage, brother. We don't know what's all that's in the sausage,
exactly. We don't know. That's exactly it. We don't
and we're
know.
trying to find out.
I thought we was talking about Trump being a racist today.
Oh
What is
man. Well, listen, let's talk about it. See, this is the problem. I will say this is my last point on this. Is like I just don't understand why, not you, but just why it's so difficult for Democrats to get on board with the spending and less spending and less waste. Like I just don't understand how, like, just in nature. I just hate how everything is so partisan. If one party says it, then it's got to be evil, and we reject it wholeheartedly on the other end. And I hate that because I don't see anything wrong, anything unjust, anything unbiblical, anything ungodly about us really trying to be wise stewards of the taxpayer dollars and make sure that we can, salvage our nation. But some people don't like it because the Orange Man said it and must be bad.
Well,
You
I
want to
just
talk
think
about?
it's interesting
Go ahead.
that the person who added the most to the debt you think is the best person to fix it. But okay, great. Sounds sounds good.
Hey, nobody else has been in office that tried to do it, so
Is that is
that's
that
been
true?
successful. Let's talk about it, man.
Uh,
So did he cancel Black History Month or nah? That's what the blacks were up in arms last week.
the what?
The blacks. Yes. The blacks. Up in arms last week. Preachers going off. Everybody's upset because it
Oh,
appeared
black people?
the
I
blacks,
thought you I
the
thought you was talking
Negro
about
community,
I thought that was somebody's last name, like a
the
family,
Negro community.
like Michael Blackson or something. I didn't know. Okay,
Hilarious. Shout out to the
so
Blacksons.
you sound like Trump. The
Uh,
blacks, they really like me.
I happen to be
Okay,
having an
go
affinity
ahead.
for a certain Blackson. But anyways, continue.
Yeah.
What were we talking about? They
Did
got
Trump
upset because
cancel
they
Black
thought he canceled Black History Month. Our
Lives
favorite month. You can't cancel February because you hate black people, man. Everybody's going wild because he said, and I want to tell you this, DeAndre. He said that in the Defense Department, particularly in the CIA, our defense agencies, he made the executive order that we are no longer going to recognize Black History Month. We're not going to recognize any ethnic celebration or any month, nor are we going to celebrate MLK in the defense agencies. Everybody went berserk.
or women's history too.
Or
I think
women's,
was it.
right? We're not celebrating nothing. He said, all we doing is working. You're coming to work and you're going to work. That's all we're doing. We're not celebrating the Irish. We're not celebrating the Spanish, the Hispanic, the gays. We're not celebrating none of that.
What
It's
about the
just we're
Jews?
coming to work to
I
work.
hear that about the Jews. They
Well,
still left
we're
that. We
going to
go
Rosh Hashanah. We're
always
going to Rosh
remember.
Hashanah. We're going to Rosh Hashanah
Yeah,
that. There
yeah,
is
yeah,
still, yes, and they're going to
yeah,
celebrate the feast of the Passover. Yeah. And they don't work on
yeah.
Fridays,
I
too.
hear
So there's
nothing
that.
about the Jews in there.
I'm joking. No ethnic celebration, man.
Well, I'm just saying,
The
it sounds
blacks got
like they have.
upset. Why did the community get upset, DeAndre?
No, don't
Why
you
do we
wait.
get so offended?
I'm so glad that you can identify whatever race you want, but people can't identify whatever sex they want. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying we live in I'm happy you have the right to identify as whatever ethnic group you choose.
This chose me. This life chose me, DeAndre. I didn't choose this
Yeah,
life. This life
you were
chose
born
me,
that way.
brother.
You were born that
That's
way.
right. I can't change the pigmentation on my skin
Oh,
tone. I can't change the
listen.
melanin in my brain.
You can't be a dog. You can't be a dog chasing after every single car that comes down the street. And if you, every time Trump says something or does something, you react in a crazy way, you'll be reacting till Jesus comes back. Um, it's foolish to think that Trump canceled Black History Month or anything like that. As a matter of fact, I did read his proclamation for Black History Month,
Wasn't that
but
strong? Wasn't it strong?
it was it it, it made me nauseous. It made me nauseous. The list of some of the, as he called them, Black American heroes,
Right.
Justice Clarence Thomas. I
How
said,
is he not a black American hero?
love lost because he identified like you. He don't identify as black.
I'm a black
He
man. Are you
didn't.
kidding me?
Well,
I'm a black man.
Clarence Thomas does not identify as a black man.
Oh, that's so mean. The Honorable Clarence Thomas, Justice Clarence Thomas, is a
Oh, bought and paid
upstanding,
for Clarence Thomas.
honorable.
Outstanding. That
Oh
man is
yes.
bought and paid for. He is
Hey,
owned
hey,
by the billionaire class
hey.
and makes his
It's not
rulings
proven.
based off of that.
Not proven.
Yeah,
Innocent
prove
until
it.
proven
Just no
guilty.
rules against it. It's proven. It's just no rules against it, which is crazy. Why don't
Innocent
they
until
fight
proven
for
guilty.
that?
Innocent until
Guilty.
proven guilty.
Definitely guilty. As guilty.
Big Clarence, let's go. We honor Clarence, and I think it's a shame that just because
So
his
you are
politics on the other
I do
side
not
of traditional black people, that I mean, the Democrats feel like he's not a hero. I'm not saying you, but it's just I see so much vitriol even before the report of his ethics came out. It was like, oh, we don't rock with him. I'm like, why? This is a successful black man who was sitting in one of the most esteemed positions in the nation, and he was the second one to do it.
What does it gain a man to
That's
gain the
funny.
whole world and lose his soul?
This is why black people are lost in politics, for that kind of thinking. That kind of thinking. This is why our community is
Whole
struggling.
world and lose his soul.
That kind of thought right there. Exactly. That's why we struggle. And that's why Martin Luther King said we overcome. You'll never overcome talking like that.
So let's talk about DEI, because that seems to be the
You people
well,
aren't
I mean,
overcoming, man.
Martin Luther King didn't even make the list. Thomas Sowell did, but Martin Luther King
He's
didn't.
got a
But
whole
anyway,
day. You don't need the day. We know that. Thomas Sowell is an
that's a
incredible black
holiday.
man.
Will not be celebrated. We're not recognizing these ethnic days.
Yeah, not in the office
Um,
place. Not in the office place.
but but I don't know. So, as it relates to DEI, I guess my question for you is, do you feel that the playing ground is level for all people? That decisions are truly made based on competency and, you know, abilities and not appearances?
DEI is corporate communism. So,
Yeah, corporate subsidies are corporate welfare, but nobody
which
has a
is
problem with
which
that.
is I guess you could kind of say that's true. So I'm not going to disagree with that. Listen, we're fair. We're fair. Churches said we want a kingdom perspective. Um, so I think the idea behind DEI
Is the
overall,
playing ground even for all? Because here's my question: why is it
it'll never be even for
that?
all.
And so, if it's not even, why not try to help tip the scales a little bit? Do you think that? Do you think that the
Because it's
NFL is
corporate
wrong for having a Rooney Rule?
corporate communism. Because corporate communism is bad. It
But I'm
destroys
saying, do you think
everything.
that that's wrong? That they recognize that there's a problem, that majority of their players are black, yet they're not getting the opportunity. Black people are not getting the opportunities to be in executive positions or in coaching positions as much as white people. You see it in the NBA too. Um, so to say, hey, you got to interview at least one minority candidate for this job. Do you think that's wrong?
I
Because they're
think
saying we know the playing ground isn't even for everybody. So we're going to try to create more opportunities for that because good people are not getting opportunities, and it's simply because of the color of their skin.
I think that everyone should have an opportunity, yes, to compete for
But that's
whatever is freely available. Yes.
so
So
what you're saying is you think that they should not have the Roman rule.
I think in a perfect world, they should not have to have the Rooney rule. But
Is the
obviously,
world
because the
perfect?
NFL is imperfect in their hiring practices from what it looks like, that they have to integrate something like that, then I think it's not wrong. I think the
Do you think
problem,
the government is any different?
I think the problem becomes when you begin to force these numbers, again, affirmative action type things, and you begin to force things and you look for that wonderful word, which is the E in DEI, which is equity. Equity is I think it's a very dangerous word and a very dangerous term to use when it comes to outcomes, because nobody can have equal outcomes, in anything. And so to expect a certain outcome and to demand it is I think not fair, and I think it's very dangerous.
But don't you say like, hey, you just said in a perfect world, you would hope that you don't need it. Does DEI say that, hey, everything has to be perfect, or does it say, hey, we're striving to make things more equitable?
You mean a more perfect union or a more perfect workplace? Um, Again, equity, equitable, more equalitative. Let's use that word. But again, equity. No, I'm gonna stand by that 10 toes down. Um,
How about
I
we
don't think
take
it's
it
wrong.
from
To answer your
equity?
question, I don't think it's wrong in spirit. I don't think it's wrong in spirit. The spirit of it
Okay.
is right.
So
I'm
where do
gonna agree.
you disagree?
Well, again, equity says that everybody gets the same results, which is impossible. If we look at it from the
Yeah.
real numbers, and this is what I love about Thomas so much too. It kind of opened my eyes to look at numbers beyond just the immediate facts, right? Of like, oh, um, we could say there aren't many black people in line for coaches, right? Although the league is primarily African American, we know that the coaching and the executive aspect of the league is not. So just because the players are primarily African American or black, that shouldn't equate to expecting that same proportion in the executive side or even the coaching side.
I
So
don't think that it's about the proportion. It's about the fact that when you look, I'm more familiar with basketball than football, but even in football.
mm-hmm,
But in basketball, especially, you'll see people like JJ Redick, never coached
sure,
at a high level in his life, and he gets a gold standard job. Or someone like Steve Nash, the same thing.
mm-hmm,
That African Americans are not given, they have to have coached 20 years, and had a resume a mile long to get the same opportunity. Whereas you find that there are white candidates that are just coming in with no experience. It's not the same measuring tape. And if you have a problem with equity, just change it. Let's stay balanced. We just want balance.
but balance then would have to be based off reality, not based off of what we
And the
feel we want to
reality
see.
is
That we're
that
13%.
usually, do you
So that
think
means that
Skip
one out
Bayless
of
is
10,
more of an expert on football than Shannon Sharp is?
no.
Okay, Shannon Sharp played. So if majority of the people who play tend to have more expertise because they have more experience, then why is it that Skip Baylesses are getting the jobs?
That's not true. Skip Bayless is a journalist. He's not a coach. And we also know that there is no correlation that because you're a great player means you're a great
Okay.
coach. So there's no correlation to
Mark
that.
Jackson, Jeff Van Gundy.
Not a player at all, but a great coach. Jeff Van Gundy wasn't a player. He wasn't a professional player. But he
You're
was a
exactly
great
right.
coach.
What I'm saying. Okay, we're 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 not on the same page here, but okay.
No, but you're saying Mark
I
Jackson, are you comparing the two? Mark Jackson was a good coach. He deserves a
Yeah,
job. I don't know why he doesn't have a job. I think it's
just the
because he went
color.
against the rainbow organizations and his stance, and they kind of probably blackballed him because of that. But he
Or it's
did
because
good.
he's black.
It's not because he's black, because there are black coaches in the
Believe
NBA. There are black coaches in the NBA. Doc Rivers, successful player, black coach. Darvin Ham, who the Lakers fired in place of JJ Redick, was a black coach. The Kings fired Mike Brown, former Cavs
Darvin
coach,
Ham. How
who
long
was
did
coach of
Darvin
the
Ham
year.
last? How long did Darvin Ham last?
And he lasted way shorter than he should have because JJ Redick is not doing much any better.
He ain't doing no better.
Blame that on LeBron, I
Exactly.
think, if you
But
ask
I
me.
bet they ain't gonna get rid of him like they got rid of Darvin Ham.
Because I don't know. I mean, I can't speculate. I have no clue. But I think the point I'm making is that you look at the coach with the Phoenix Suns, forget homie's name. No, I mean the Detroit Pistons, black dude. There are
Tony
black coaches
Bickerstaff.
in. What'd you say?
No, JB Bickerstaff.
JB Bickerstaff. But there's a young guy who coached. No, maybe the Pelicans. I forget. But there's some young coach who he used to
There are
who coached.
black coaches, but the black coaches have to climb Mount Everest, and all the white coaches are doing is have to cross the street.
Jason Kidd is a black coach. Although he may not look it, he's a black coach.
Lately,
He got hired
yeah.
immediately after his career. Your boy Derek Fisher had no experience. He retired. He coached the New York Knicks. I mean, you'll see this now. Granted, now are you talking about coaches who come from the bottom? Again, you got a guy like Mike Brown. You got a guy, who's their coaches, their assistant coaches, and they work that game. So I think you see that world versus like coming from high school to college,
This isn't
etc.
about sports. This isn't about sports. It's about the federal government and DEI. The
But
fact
no,
of the
but it's
matter
about
is,
life though.
there are racist people who are making these decisions in our government.
That's
This
wrong to say
is
that.
not
I'm listening
it's
to you.
accurate to say that. Racism still exists. Sexism still exists. Okay. And as long as it exists, we should try to do things. Is it sometimes taken to the extreme? I'm sure it is. But I do think that there need to be programs and things in place. And even if it's done on a certain industry by industry basis or department by department basis, but there are some areas where I think we need some more diversity. I think diversity is important. I think it makes the product better at the end of the day. And I think that we miss out on a lot of great candidates because people people are more comfortable with people that look like them. I mean, that's just the fact of the matter.
But do you want the best or not? Do we want the most qualified? I think
But
is the question.
why is it an assumption that those aren't the most qualified?
I guess would be the same assumption that everybody who is making the decisions are racist.
I didn't say everybody that makes
Well, I
the
mean that there are
decisions are
people there, though, right? You're saying that there are people that
there are
you're
people making
implying
decisions that
implicit
are racist.
racism, sexism,
In government,
etc.
there are
Yeah,
people who make decisions that are sexist. Yeah, that's exactly what I said. Not all of them. Some of them. Yeah.
not all of them, some of them. So I just think that we want the best. No, we're not saying the blacks aren't the best.
Do
We're
you
not
think
saying that
Strom
women aren't the best.
was a racist?
What'd you say?
Do you think Strom Thurmond was a racist?
Do I think Strom Thurmond was a
Yeah.
racist?
Do you think Strom Thurmond was a racist?
Strom Thurmond from the 60s and the 50s, the great, I won't say the great senator, but the senator from West Virginia, Strom Thurmond.
Strom Thurmond was around a whole lot later than the 60s. Yeah, he
Was
was
he
a
racist?
racist.
Was he also
Okay.
not involved in the Ku Klux Klan?
Oh, he definitely was. I
Yeah,
mean,
definitely a racist. That's
he,
the point.
he his whole thing was about no desegregation, uh, all of that.
Yeah, and Biden
No,
was with
no
him. I think
civil
Biden
rights.
was supporting a lot of his agenda too, if I recall correctly. But that's neither here nor there.
No, make it right. Like, do you think he was a racist? Can you just answer the
Do I
question?
think Joe Biden was a racist? Yes. Do I think Strom Thurmond was a racist? Yes.
Okay, that's all I was asking. Thank
But
you.
but but DEI
All
says everybody's a racist. This is the
right.
problem. It puts that pressure on everybody.
No,
Yes, it does. It's almost
it
like
says
Me Too.
we can't know when you find a bloody glove if you like to use the N word, Mr. Detective Mark Furman. So we have to set something in place, okay? Because we don't know every racist just by looking at them,
But you're
okay?
assuming that everybody's a racist.
No, you're not assuming. What you're assuming is that there are great candidates out there who aren't getting opportunities, and we want to make sure that they do.
So what equity? Okay, which makes sense on paper, right? But here's what equity does. If we want real equity, there are allegedly four to ten
Hey,
percent 4 to 10% of population are gay, right? So then that means that we should make sure we're going to do the numbers right. 4% would be the lowest of gay LGBTQ people, right? 13% blacks, right?
but
So if we're going to do it right,
yeah.
then there should be 13%. So NFL example, that means that we should have one out of it should be maybe 2.5 black coaches in the NFL. If we want equity,
Shame, shame, shame.
y'all want
Shame
equity or
on you.
not?
Here comes the fake news, people.
We
Here
want
comes
equity
the
or
fake
not?
news. I thought you weren't spinning to the left or right because, brother, you doing more
Oh,
spinning than a
oh.
figure skate.
So we want equity we just want more black people. We don't care if it's real equity. We just want more
You
of
that
us,
ride it,
less
you the
them.
ride at the carnival that where the you spin so much it's like no gravity. But
Hilarious. These, ladies and
that's
gentlemen,
you, brother. You fit it.
this is the
Go
problem.
to twirl.
This is the
Twirl,
problem.
brother. Go to spin.
We don't want real
Go.
equity. We don't want.
That's not what it's saying. That's not what it's saying.
So then, what
You
do you
know
do with all
that.
the white people that we're kicking out? What do you do with the Asian people that we're ignoring? What do you do about the Hispanic people that we're ignoring? Because we see
Oh,
black people are like, oh, we want a chance, we want a shot. We just want to be all black, right? Look at it, DEI, equity. We made it. We finally got a shot. Cool, but that's not reality. That's not the real numbers. If we look at all the applicants based off of race, if we wanted real equity, then it should be only 13% of the people who work here should be black. That should be it. But it's
so
not
you're
like
going
that.
by the letter and not the spirit, but that's okay.
Oh, I'm going by reality.
You
What
do
equity
that.
says. This is what y'all
Okay.
wanted.
Okay.
That's why I'm saying it's corporate communism, because they're trying to place a mindset that, hey, that one, the people are racist. One, you're sexist. Two, that you don't want to do that. And I think that's a pressure that is not fair. That's like when you're dating a chick, right? You're dating a woman, I'm dating a woman. It's like, boom. I was like, oh, I gotta be very like, I put my arm around you. Like, oh my God, what do you think you're trying to do? Like, yo,
Here's the
you're
thing.
cold.
What? But what
I'm
do
just
you,
trying to
what?
warm you.
Get consent. You need consent, brother. But not
Always
funny.
get consent. Amen to that.
But yeah,
No,
so you
I'm
get
no
me
joking
too.
here.
You better. But
That's
here's my
exactly what I'm
thing.
trying to say. It's the pressure that's not
Let
always
let
right.
me make the point. You said, okay, there's 4% of homosexuals. Does this factor in like people like Bernie Moreno, the senator from Ohio, who it appears to be a closeted homosexual, or Mark Robinson, the governor candidate, the Republican governor candidate from North Carolina, who appears to be a closeted transsexual admirer, um,
Thank you
and
for
Black
brother.
Nazi. Like, do you factor in those numbers in
Alleged.
there when you
Again,
say that? Because maybe the percentage would be larger
mm,
if you factored
people were
in
actually
those,
real.
like the Republicans who are crashing Tinder during the
Hilarious.
during the convention.
Oh gosh. That's what I'm saying though. So why are we doing all this? Let's just pick the best person. Let's just pick the best person. That's
Who
what
is
we
this?
want to do. Let's just
But
pick the
why?
best person.
Sometimes the best person is not even getting through the door because they don't have the the right skin color. You're not
Again,
even getting an opportunity to see the best person.
we're applying that those policies are racist or that those
You
practices are
know what?
racist.
I wish colleges were doing this too. And that just because your daddy and your granddaddy went here doesn't mean you get to go here.
You're against that.
Okay. No, I'm not necessarily against it, but what I'm saying is it's like what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Shouldn't they're taking away spots from people who are better deserving. Don't you agree?
I would agree with that. By nature, absolutely. That does it. Now, I'm also sure that they have a
Well, why
limit.
aren't we fighting against that? Let's
They
start there.
well, they did. They actually took away a lot of these colleges are actually taking away legacy admissions or at least severely
Oh,
limiting them drastically.
not a lot of the Ivy League ones.
And that's something else that's again, we don't have time for this, but this is something that we got to really look at when it comes to DEI and these things. Like the problem is that we got to look at the whole thing. It's not just skin color. For one,
I
I
agree.
mean, this will go down the list. This will go down the drain. Let's just say this.
No,
Like it's
we
deeper.
know people are sexist,
But
that
yeah,
they
but
think women can do certain jobs as well as men. But anyway,
they changed the rate.
well, how much
Uh,
more time do we have?
we got a few more minutes. If you have a few more minutes,
I got, all right, 8 more minutes.
all right. So I wanted to. What are your thoughts
Talk
on the
about
Trump administration
immigration.
so far?
I'm trying not to pay attention.
Good, bad, the ugly. Come on, man. I know last time you were here,
I give,
you
I give
glowingly
stuff,
related to Biden.
I give the Trump administration of F, because they are for sale. He is he's trying to turn us into Russia, where everything's run by the oligarchs. For sale. America for sale. Legislation for sale. It's all for sale. He gets it now. He gets it
Okay,
absolutely.
what is your proof of this?
All of the billionaires and corporate CEOs front and center at his inauguration.
They celebrated America's transition to power. You think that means that we're ran by
Yeah, they
oligarchs now?
celebrating all right. It's like we got keys to the
Cut the
hey
check.
the foxes is in the hen house. They done opened the door like it's
Cut
January 6th. Give the
the
Capitol
check.
tours, man.
The door was opened. Amen. I'm glad you said that. The door
That
was
was the
opened.
window after they broke it.
The door was opened. Praise God. You know what's interesting? So, I mean, it's interesting. I did see that Mark Zuckerberg, CEO of Facebook, um, wrote a check to the Donald Trump's presidential um, library fund or whatever, and he donated $25 million to Trump's library because of the issue that happened of him being censored in 2020. And I thought that was a bit awkward. It definitely seemed like not quite. It definitely seemed like some sort of like, I'm sorry, can I get back into into your good graces kind of thing, which was somewhat sketchy to me. No
Well,
spin here, Doc.
not as sketchy as that $2 billion that Jared Kushner got from Saudi Arabia.
Or the whole Ukraine situation, where I just seen President Zelensky said they've only seen half of it. They don't know where the other half of the 155 billion went. I'm sure the big guy knows. The big guy being
What?
President Joe
Hunter
Biden.
Biden? Oh,
That's the
I know
smaller
who.
guy.
Oh, okay.
But
Well,
yeah,
even
man.
if he did, he might not remember.
But yeah, that's what they say. Hilarious. Coincidentally, I don't remember. That's what my son
The
tells me all the
old
time when I
man,
try to get him to do
he's
something. Like, I don't remember
he's
that.
a, he's
I'm
a
like, you
people
remember it.
man.
But you got to think. Come on, man. What's good? You don't think so? Overall, I think the Doge department has saved the American taxpayers from wasting. I want to say close to $3 to $4 billion already. I know you think it's a drop in the hat,
You want to
but
say, but are you sure? If you're not sure, just say you don't know.
what?
You
What the
said,
exact amount?
yeah,
Well, because every day
because
they're finding new amounts, so I don't keep in track with it.
hopefully they're not cutting any essential
They're
programs.
not. They're not. He's promised. Trump has promised that they will not touch
Well,
Medicare, Social
this ain't
Security,
like
those things. Those
this
essential
ain't
services
like
are not being targeted.
this ain't like that build where we gonna build a wall and Mexico's gonna pay for it. I promise. It ain't one of them promises,
Oh
is it?
gosh, here you go again. Hey, I do know
Is it
this
one
right
of
now
them
though.
kind of promises?
That's funny. That's funny. Here you go. See,
Is
you
it
always
one of those
deflect.
I didn't have sex with a porn star
Is it
promises?
good or not that they have saved that money? Yes or no? Is it
I'd
good or
have to
not?
I'd have to see a line by line appropriation of what was cut and what
Of
was done
wasted
and what
funds. Do you
I want to see where
celebrate
the
it?
money comes from. I want to see where the money comes from before
Oh
I
my
comment. I
gosh.
don't want to comment prematurely on something I'm not familiar with, item by item. That's
What
just
about
wisdom.
the two gender policy? Do you celebrate that?
What is the two gender policy?
That this government's administration only recognizes two genders. So there's no more, in terms of
Well,
from the federal
what
policy
other
stuff like that.
genders was being recognized?
That's a great question. I don't know how many. I
Well,
want to
it
say
is
up
a
to
great
70
question. Tell
something.
me,
I want to say up to
70 something
73.
genders?
Up to
73
73.
genders?
This is the people on your side,
Can
bro.
you just name five of them? Can you just name five?
The people in the DNC. I wish I could. I only grew up with two. These people on the left, these liberal left-leaning,
Can you name five of them? Because
they can't either. No one can. But they're saying that all these
so
different permutations.
basically,
We know we back to
like
two.
what?
We're back to two, brother.
Well, it sounds like we never left two. Felt like it
Oh,
was
we
two
left it.
already.
We left it.
Well, name some of them, because I'm not
What about the
familiar with
Laken
them.
Riley Act? What about the Laken Riley Act? Are you a fan of that?
No, what's that?
Not the Laken. Is it the Laken Riley? Well, yeah, where it's basically
Isn't
sending out.
that coach?
No, that's the lady. Unfortunately, that's the lady who was raped and murdered in Georgia by an illegal immigrant.
Lincoln Riley is a coach.
Laken Riley is the girl who died.
Oh, Lakin. You say Lincoln or Lakin?
Laken,
Okay. I'm not familiar.
Laken.
Okay. So you're saying Lincoln.
I'm celebrating that I got that wrong. Laken Riley.
All right, what
Yeah,
happened?
she was the girl who was murdered. 14-year-old girl. A 22-year-old nurse murdered in 2024 by an illegal immigrant.
Hmm.
Are you excited
Do
about
you
the
think if
Laken
we
Riley
had
Act?
zero, I don't know what the act is, but what I do know is, do you think if we had no illegal immigrants, do you think that we would have no murders, no rape,
Oh God.
no crime?
No, because I don't think that. Because truthfully, the illegal immigrants, are not the people who are doing the majority of those jobs. Statistically, came across this over the weekend. I want to say maybe 2%, at best 4. I forget if it was 2 or 4%, but no more than 4, were the people were actually engaged in those type of jobs. So the majority of the people who come here illegally are not hardworking, contributing, and picking your crops and your berries and flipping the burgers for you. The most of the people who come illegally are those who majorly utilize resources and cost the American taxpayers.
Mm, I disagree with that. I'd have to see some. I think you need to be fact checked on that.
You think I'm
Uh,
wrong or you disagree?
I think you're wrong.
Okay,
Which is why I say I think you need to be fact checked on that.
don't fact check me.
But
I'm right.
do you think that these people are poor?
Oh my gosh. I think they came here illegally, and I think that they should respect the rules of entering our nation. And to become a citizen, or to at least begin that
Did
process, they should go
Melania
through the
Trump
port.
respect the rules?
I don't know how she got here. Honestly, I don't know how she got here.
But we do know she's an immigrant.
But I'm assuming that she came here through the proper channels.
But did she lie on her visa?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. But I know that she's a legal immigrant. She's not illegal. But I do know that there were 15 million illegal immigrants
She
who came through
married
our
an
borders.
American, which made her legal,
There
correct?
it is. Maybe
Did
just
you
like
understand her visa?
Ilhan Omar, I think, also had a similar process as well. But we don't have to discuss that.
All legal. It's a legal
Hey,
process. I
I'm
mean,
just
Trump's
saying.
trying to
So
get
hey,
rid of it
legal is
now.
legal. Hey, legal is legal.
That's exactly my point. Here's my thing. Like I said, I disagree with your previous assertion. What I
Facts. But
know is
good.
that a lot of these people are poor, and the Bible talks about poor. I just want to read some scriptures.
Oh yes,
As I
give the
close out,
scriptures.
you can stay on all night, but I'm gonna have to go. Proverbs 19:17. Whoever is kind to the poor lends to the Lord, and He will reward
Mm,
them for what they do. Proverbs 22:9. The generous will themselves be blessed, for they shall
yes.
share their food with the poor. Oh,
Mm,
I got more.
mm,
Proverbs 28:27. Those who give to the poor will lack nothing, but
mm.
those who close their eyes to them receive many curses. Well, keep going. Proverbs 31:8 and 9.
My God.
Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute. Speak up and judge fairly. Defend the rights of the poor and the needy.
My God.
Now, one
My
more.
God.
Proverbs 31:20. She
Okay.
opens her arms to the poor and
Mm-hmm.
extends her hands to the needy.
Wow. Wow.
I'm
Let's
saying,
go.
how are we treating the poor?
Mm.
There's
I
a lot
think
of things we can say about these people, but I think that most of us should be able to agree that they're poor. And the
Yeah, what does that
Bible
have to do
tells
with
us
anything?
how we are to treat the poor. And you know what? I'm gonna go by the Bible. You do
Oh
what you
man.
got to do.
Oh,
Well, thank you
let me.
so much for having me on.
Oh no, you're
I
not
just
leaving
want to
on
say
that. You're
all
not
my
leaving on that. You're not leaving on that. You're not leaving on
what
that. You can't leave on
the
that.
word.
Oh no,
This is
because you can
kingdom
twist the word.
perspective.
You can
This is a
twist it.
kingdom perspective.
This is a kingdom. You
Kingdom
can twist
perspective.
it. You're not going to twist
Oh,
the
yeah.
word here, brother. I can't let you leave with
Oh,
just the twisting of the word. Real
oh, the
quick, let me just
word don't
touch on
say.
that. Let me
Okay,
touch on that real
touch
quick. 30
by
seconds,
all
I'm going to
means.
touch on this. That the poor that they're referring to are not the people who have broken the law. All right? Let me give you a Bible verse. You want to go Bible verse real quick? Here's a Bible verse. Men do not despise a thief if he steals to satisfy himself is when he is hungry. But when he is found, he must repay sevenfold. He must give all the substance of his house. Wow. So yeah, the poor, unfortunately, they make decisions. But guess what? When they're found, justice has to come. That's Bible. So we're not hating the persons because their poverty state. Jesus said, blessed are those who are poor in spirit. There's the kingdom of God. He said, matter of fact, the Holy Ghost is on me because he's anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. So listen, the poverty, those who are stricken by poverty are not looked down upon or nor treated wrongly. All we're saying is you've got to come correctly. You cannot break a law just because you're poor. Poverty does not give you the privilege or the right to violate the laws of a nation. And I think that when we ignore that and ignore the laws and justice and lift up a person's state as if that's an excuse, I think that does injustice to the scriptures and to the intention of the scriptures.
Mm, amen.
Thank you for coming on. Thank you for coming on today, DeAndre. We're gonna get better
God
at this.
bless
I'm
you.
gonna get better at this, man. You're the best. We appreciate your perspective and your opinion. Folks,
Yep.
that's it. That's all we got for today, man. DeAndre Forney. You
Pray
can find DeAndre Forney
for
online.
our country.
What'd you say?
Pray for pray for our country. Pray
Yes,
for
pray.
those who are in authority over us, who lead this fine country at our government offices. Let us pray for them.
Let us pray
God,
in Jesus' name.
yes, yes. All right,
Bless
people.
God,
Thanks
man.
for.
Appreciate you, bro. All right, everybody. Listen, that's it for today, man. We love you so much. Listen, do be sure, like, comment, and share. What a crazy episode we had today. It's going to keep getting better every week. We got more church and state. Listen, give us your comments, your thoughts, your feedback on this stuff. We're trying to figure it out. We're trying to walk in the kingdom pathway, do this the right way. Listen, we just want Jesus' way. All right. That's it. So that's it for church and state. I'm your host, Bryson G. Baylor. Until the next time, I'll holler.